Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today about an issue that's plaguing communities across the state. I'm House Democratic Floor Leader Christine Gregg. I represent the 37th House District, representing the people of Farmington and Farmington Hills. You know, for years, families in our state have lived in a constant state of unease when it comes to the safety of the water in their homes. First, it was Flint, where a failed corporate emergency manager model resulted in the poisoning of a city. Then last year, we learned that PFAS chemicals from contaminated dumping sites were leaching into private wells and city water systems across the state. For 265 days, the people standing up here with me today have been fighting to ensure that communities have the resources they need to fight back, keep our water safe, and protect children and families. Rep. Brinks introduced legislation to strengthen PFAS water quality standards on December 13th, 2017, 265 days ago. Her plan has been ignored. Representative Robbie introduced budget fixes to provide additional resources to clean up contaminated sites. Those proposals were rejected time and time again. Representatives Hertel, Brinks, and Sowerby have called for committee hearings and public forums, only to have those calls fall on deaf ears. Continued inaction and delay are absolutely unacceptable. We're here today because it is past time for the legislature to step up and act. And as we are finally back in session tomorrow, the time for excuses is past as well. This administration and legislative Republicans have an opportunity to show that they can do more than the bidding of the wealthy corporate donors. As a Great Lakes state, our water is part of our collective identity. Yet, even as we are surrounded by the most abundant freshwater source on earth, we are unable to ensure the water coming out of our taps is safe for us to drink, bathe, and cook with. Pure Michigan has got to be more than a marketing slogan. We are here today because we have a plan, and we hope that Republicans will join us to help us strengthen our clean water standards, set up alternative water supplies for impacted communities, and conduct oversight hearings to give Michiganders the answers they deserve. We have only a few session days, and again, session has been canceled, or there's a threat of not meeting. We have the opportunity in this month of September and in October to get real work done on this issue. The people of Michigan deserve it. So to talk to you a little bit more about the legislation we have introduced, I want to introduce Representative Winnie Brinks.
Thank you, Floor Leader Gregg. Hello, everyone. My name is Winnie Brinks, and I represent the 76th District in Grand Rapids. For more than a year, the knowledge of PFAS contamination has plagued communities like mine and throughout the state. In just the last few days, do not eat fish advisories have been issued across southeast Michigan for the Huron River and Lake Erie. Schools in Kent County and in Ionia tested above safe levels, and the entire water systems of Parchment and Cooper Township had to be turned off and flushed after the city water was contaminated. To date, more than 30 communities throughout the state have PFAS levels well beyond the advisory level. Even more troubling is the fact that level is only an advisory. We still do not have an enforceable drinking water standard established in law to protect our citizens from PFAS contamination. That's why I introduced legislation last year to set Michigan's maximum contaminant level for PFAS at 5 parts per trillion, a significant drop from the current advisory of 70 parts per trillion. My bill proposes a level that is in line with new studies from the Centers for Disease Control that suggest PFAS levels should not exceed 7 to 11 parts per trillion. This cap would be the lowest in the country and would ensure that the water coming out of Michiganders' taps is worthy of being called pure. Access to clean, safe drinking water is a fundamental human right. And yet today marks the 265 days since my legislation, House Bill 5375, was introduced. 260 days that have been 65 days that have been squandered when we could have been keeping Michigan families safe. Now that we're finally back in session, our first priority must be addressing these critical water issues plaguing our state by passing House Bill 5375 to protect our drinking water, and ensuring those communities affected by PFAS contamination have the support they need, including safe alternative water resources when a crisis strikes. The health and safety of Michigan residents shouldn't be a political or a partisan issue. That's why we've spent the last 265 days working with committee chairs and asking for hearings multiple times on this legislation, but to no avail. Now that we're back in session, taking action should not and cannot be put off any longer. To discuss this further, I'd like to hand it over to my colleague, Representative Hertel.
Well, thank you, Representative Brinks, and hello, my name is Kevin Hertel. I am the state representative from the 18th House District, the cities of St. Clair Shores and East Point, but I am also the Democratic Vice Chair of the House Oversight Committee. And we now know that the Snyder administration was aware of the looming PFAS crisis in our state for many years, and yet they failed to act. Instead, countless families throughout Michigan were allowed to unknowingly drink, cook with, and bathe in contaminated water. And those families deserve to know why. That is why I have called upon the House Oversight Committee to hold immediate hearings regarding PFAS contamination in our state. News reports exposed the Department of Environmental Quality had a report that could have alerted us to the dangers of PFAS. However, that report was buried for 6 years. Michiganders deserve to have some answers, and we have the ability to give them those answers. Most importantly, we deserve to know the full scope of PFAS dangers and how they impact our families and our communities. But they also deserve to know why this administration withheld information that could have protected the health of our families. We have a real opportunity to help calm the fears of Michiganders regarding the safety of their drinking water. We have the power to provide comfort and to get to the truth about what happened leading up to this PFAS crisis and what is currently being done. Yet our calls for hearings have gone unanswered. Without a hearing and investigation into this crisis, we may not ever know the full scope of PFAS contamination in our state. While it seems enormous and outrageous now, who knows what it will be like weeks from now if Republicans in the legislature refuse to act. So we are renewing the calls today for Chairman Graves and Chairman Howell to hold hearings on the PFAS issue and on the legislation we have introduced, and we look forward to working with them to solve this issue for Michiganders across the state. To wrap this up, Representative Robbie.
Thank you, Representative Hertel. My name is Yusuf Rapi from the 53rd District. Before I start my remarks, I want to thank everybody in the room that's here today, because the work that you're doing to bring light to this issue is transformational for our state. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the reporting that you have done on this issue in the past. It can't be said enough. Clean water is a right. Water is life. I've been in the legislature now for 20 months, but I've been in public office almost for 8 years. And I've watched during that time as our state has moved farther and farther away from the principles that make us so great. We've moved to a state of inaction. When there are problems facing our people in Michigan, the legislature refuses to act. Why is it that it seems like there's always money for another handout to the wealthiest Michiganders, to the corporations in our state, but there's never money to fix our roads or make sure that our students are being well educated or making sure that everybody in our state can drink clean water? There once was a time when people had faith in government, when government was made by and for the people to protect people. And over the last 8 years, we've gotten away from that in Lansing. We've gotten away from that ethic. Politicians, elected leaders, we're supposed to work for the public. We're supposed to roll up our sleeves every day and make sure that when people turn their taps on, They have clean water. When they walk out of their houses, they can breathe clean air. That's our job. And yet, inaction is what we've seen from this legislature. But that's why we're here today, because we are asking again and again on a daily basis that this legislature take its responsibility seriously and hold hearings, oversight hearings that will shed light on what actually happened at the DEQ to lead to this situation and what has been happening from a regulatory and legislative environment that has led to pollutants like PFAS, but there are other pollutants out there that are threatening our communities. Pollutants like PFAS getting into people's drinking water. And we're asking to make sure that if a community, like my own community of Ann Arbor, where we've had some issues with our water supply, and recently, as Representative Brinks said, there was a do not fish order issued for the Huron River. That's through my district. Those are my constituents that are fishing those fish. It's unacceptable. We're asking that when a community is threatened with its drinking water, that the state provide alternate drinking water. Why is it so hard for folks in Lansing to understand that everybody in Michigan deserves clean water? So we're here today to call for oversight hearings. We're here today to call for alternative water supplies. We're here today to make sure that the people who the public has elected here in Lansing are standing up for them. We're here to demand accountability, to demand a better path forward. And we have an opportunity with this legislation to do that.